All week long, everyone, we've been talking about stop and frisk, and we've had a lot of principals involved in this on both sides of the debate, including the attorney who just got class action status here attached to the suit. There was a withering decision from the Federal District Court and Judge Scheindlin on this, where she said, among other things, that she found the city's actions here deeply troubling the apathy towards New Yorkers' most fundamental constitutional rights. She went on to say the city's attitude was cavalier and added that suspicionless stops should never occur. And we're going to link that actual decision. It's interesting reading to our site here, and you can reach your own conclusion. All right, before the break, we were talking about numbers and the efficacy of the crime stats. And I don't want to bog down the audience, who we'll bring in a second, with too much of the numbers, but you wanted to comment on something Mayo said.
Well, Mayo's suggesting that crime is the same across the city. The reason the police are in certain neighborhoods, the 41st precinct, is because that's where people are getting killed. I think it would have been good to get some of Fritz Pascal's teammates on your show. This is the 17-year-old who was recently shot.
For a second. We have tried, we have given the NYPD.
This is not the NYPD.
I understand,
Fritz
but we
Pascal
have given.
is a 17-year-old who was just almost killed trying to save a 16-year-old who was being attacked by 14 thugs. His classmates and football teammates said,
one thing I don't have a lot of time is time. Okay, but
if people had been frisked, the gun would have been off the street.
But here's my point.
People are not getting killed on the Upper East Side.
Let's not get into gun control debates, okay?
Because I'm getting into why the police are in certain neighborhoods.
But here's my question.
You're
basically saying.
I'm saying
no,
it's a.
But here's the debate. This is one of the crux of the debate. And Andrew will bring you on this. The cops aren't on Park Ave patting people down and making them spread and put their hands
because people are not getting shot
But
there.
The consequence of that is an 18-year-old kid on Park Ave doesn't have to worry when the squad car stops that he's going to have to actually put his hands up against the wall and prove it's innocent, when a kid in the same thing in Bed-Stuy might.
I'd rather worry about getting shot. I'd rather worry about getting shot. As soon as people start getting shot, how about last year in Ocean Hill, Brownsville? Everybody's complaining about the stop rate there. The shooting rate is 81 times higher than in Bay Ridge, 81 times higher. A 34-year-old mother was killed picking up her child on a Friday afternoon from elementary school.
But you
tell me, when somebody gets killed on Park Avenue picking up her child at 5
so
p.m.,
the only way
to
fight crime, the only way to fight crime is basically to say, well, I'm sorry, but wait, time out. If you got the wrong color and you live in the wrong neighborhood, Constitution doesn't apply to you, but it does to you. I understand what you're saying.
Crime has
color. Well, of course it does. 90% of the people stopped are black and Latino, and they don't make up 90% of the population.
They certainly make up that percent of the victims. That's where they're being killed. Blacks and Hispanics commit 98% of all shootings in New York City. Whites commit a little over 1%. Given that,
so two different sets of laws for two different sets of colors.
No, the CompStat is colorblind. If you go to a CompStat meeting in the NYPD, race never comes up. What are they looking at? Where is crime? Where are people being shot? Do you want your kid getting shot, Richard? I would think not.
What does that mean, though? Wait, time out. What that means is, if I, as a white guy, want to look out for, as you say, the minorities who are committing the crimes, I have to say, you know what? Whether it's an 18-year-old kid, he did anything wrong, whether there's any suspicion or not, put his you-know-what against the wall and pat him down. That's how I'll feel comfortable. They'll think twice. That's the answer, and I'm not signing up for that. And I'm not some bleeding heart who wants everybody walking around with a gun. But you're giving me the only way to fight crime is to say that you're guilty till proven innocent if between 18 and 24 and you're black here. You know how many people were stopped? 4 million people have been stopped under Bloomberg since he's been mayor. And every data, forget about it. If it really worked, I think it was screwed up. But it's not even really working. What are we fighting for?
We have a police force of 35,000 cops. If 25,000 who are on street patrol, that's including every detective, every patrolman, made one stop a week, that would be over 1 million stops a year. Given the size of the force, if you're asking for any kind of activity, it's very easy.
Heather. They've got
have
quotas.
once a month is what they're asking for on
They say
stops.
don't come back if you don't have 10 tonight. We have eyewitness accounts. You have audio tapes.
You know what?
What more do you want?
Cops are lazy.
Those averages don't apply because, as we've been talking about, it only happens in a few certain neighborhoods.
Right.
And you're trying
That's where the crime is.
But you're trying to disperse those numbers across the entire police department, and that doesn't hold because you're not getting the same number of stops in Lower Manhattan that you are in the outer boroughs.
And do you think
so
we should?
So the one-a-month argument that you're making completely doesn't work because you've got different precincts where those rates are going where they're going up. Now, I understand that you're trying to prevent crime, but what you're doing is you're treating people who have not committed a crime, haven't been accused of committing a crime, as though they're criminals. And that's the problem that I have. You're prejudging the people who are likeliest to be committing these crimes and taking action against them, as opposed to investigating and prosecuting the people who have committed the crime.
9 out of 10
Andrew,
after you stop it. Wait a minute. Wait, we got to get this fact out so we don't confuse it.
Let's get it out.
9 out of 10 people that you stop, they say, have a good day after they made him put their hands against the wall. What do you think if it's our kid? Tom, if it's my kid and he's doing nothing wrong, like the kid we interviewed yesterday, and a cop draws a gun on him, and he said, never mind. You think that
it's not going to happen to your kid. It's not going to happen to your kid.
You know what? There are definitely innocent black boys who have been stopped in the city.
90% of them.
No, I am that.
No, 90% by the city's own data.
If somebody is casing a victim or on a drug set, and he is casing, and you think the cops are not going to find evidence on him.
No one's suggesting that these people are casing anybody, and no one's suggesting that they're participating. No one's suggesting that anybody here is committing any crimes. So I don't think that you'd like to have the police come and look through your house today and search every single drawer in your home. Would you like to do that? Because perhaps we could invite them in. And if they do that,
would require a warrant.
Well, why would it require a warrant? Because there's no probable cause here for individuals walking down the street. So if you happen to be walking down the street in a particular neighborhood, which you don't live in, you assume it's all right for those people to be stopped. But if the same thing happens, if you went to, again, Rye or Scarsdale and stopped every kid in that high school, you will find drugs because drugs go where affluent people are and they have the money to buy it. And if they do that, you arrest those kids and charge those kids with felonies and tell those children when they want to go on to become doctors, lawyers, and then go on to write these laws in Congress that you can't do that because you have a felony conviction, then we can talk about it. And if you go back to look at the Bill of Rights, if you go back to look at the Bill of Rights, no, not for just violence. You get felony convictions for committing felonies, most of which are not violent. But if you go to the Bill of Rights, which was signed at St. Paul's Church in Mount Vernon, and you look and you see who wrote that Bill of Rights, that was George Washington basically telling King George, I don't want you in my home. That wasn't poor black and Latino kids. That was George Washington, who was a homeowner, who was a landowner, would have owned more land than White Plains, who was concerned about the king coming into his house without reason. And to suggest to people that there's nothing wrong with you being stopped and humiliated and frisked and perhaps even sexually abused during that frisk, that's okay, that's going to possibly prevent a murder, I think is unconscionable. And to further state,
can I
well, please,
respond?
But to further state that this doesn't occur in the Upper East Side, is being myopic because people who commit murders travel throughout the city. They don't only commit the murders and only go to the neighborhoods where they may live.
Real quickly, Heather, 30 seconds, so we're going to take a break, and then we're going to continue this after the break, and we'll bring in the calls too. Your point?
Stops have to be evaluated on an individual basis. Obviously, if somebody is stopping somebody without reasonable suspicion, that is unconstitutional. That cop should be held responsible. My point is that you cannot say from the 88% hit rate, which is interesting that it hasn't changed, even though the numbers have gone.
No, it was 83% in 2003, and it's up to 90% that were neither arrested nor ticketed.
In any case, just because you have not found contraband on somebody does not mean that they were not casing a victim or engaged in suspicious behavior.
What you've just done is,
how do you find
when they write it down,
on somebody who's casing a victim?
Furtive movement. Okay, I can say right now, when all 5 of us leave the studio tonight, if somebody says furtive movement,
that's a different issue.
No,
that's a different issue. That doesn't tell you whether that stop was constitutional.
You have to go to a break. And you mentioned the 5 people here. There's only a possibility of 2 out of 5 being stopped by the police. And guess who those 2 are? 1 and 2.
If you're in a high crime neighborhood, yes, it's a crime tax that black men pay.